So thank you very much, the organizer, and thank you very much, the dean, for officially opening the workshop. Personally, I engaged in a first funded project at MMU in 2007. That project was funded by European Union. I was part of the team implementing that project. Professor Seman, at that time he was the DVC, was heading that project. A lot of exchanges in terms of knowledge, a lot of experiences in terms of research, working and collaborating with other people. So since that time, I have been involved in a number of other projects, some of them within the university, some of them outside the university, others taking lead, and others as a partner. Therefore, based on that, I thought it was very important for me to share experience from an organic point of view, without necessarily referring to either some PowerPoint, or just share experience from what I have been able personally to go through, and also learn, but also learn from others. The workshop is focusing on project proposal writing and resource mobilization. There are certain things I learned by try and error, learned through experience, that I wish if I had been told from the beginning, I should have done differently. From experience personally, and even many of us were usually never trained in these issues of resource mobilization, fundraising, grant writing. We are mainly trained in specific areas of our academic disciplines, and then we are trained in research. But when we are appointed in university, we are appointed to do 3 responsibilities, and the 4th one, which is silent but the usual advocate. The first responsibility is to teach. We get paid a salary when we teach. The second responsibility is to research. In most cases, we are not given money to research, so we must spend that money. The third responsibility is community engagement. The best you can get is a transport refund or a per diem when you engage the community. But we're not given resources to engage the community. And then number 4, which is silent, but which I always like to amplify when I have an opportunity, is innovations. There is a lot more that is involved even before you sit down to write. And that's what I would like to share with you. I found that to be able to engage in financial resource mobilization, which we call fundraising, fundamentals to fundraising. And these, to me, are important as the starting point at the individual level to think about, even before thinking of sitting down and writing a project proposal. And what are these fundamentals? We have to first ask ourselves, what are the funds? Why do we need these funds? When I was checking about funds from which fundraising derives, I found funds is equal to money set aside or saved or made available for a particular purpose. When you have any funds or money made available or saved for a particular purpose, that is equal to funds. So why I have underlined the word purpose is very important. Sometimes we have money set aside but with no purpose. When we talk about fundraising, we are raising funds for a particular purpose. We are raising money for a particular purpose. Also, unfortunately, many times in school, at home, people don't tell us about money. I don't know how many of you, as children being brought up, at one time your parents sat down to tell you about money. So in most cases, the best you can hear, especially in church, is that money is evil. that it would be easier for the camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to go to heaven. You have heard that you'd rather be happy than rich, and therefore you find that in most cases, maybe because of the attitude that our parents had or the community have, we eventually don't talk much about money. And here we are talking about rating, looking for money. And when we go in that with a mindset that money is evil, it is easier for a camel to go through the needle's eye than a rich man to go to heaven, that you'd rather be happy than rich, it means that attitude will be reflected in what you do. That's why in most cases, when people think about getting money, now here we're talking about the sources, they think number one, employment. And from employment, what did you get? You get a salary. That is money. Funds that you get out of employment is baptized a name salary. Sometimes you also get money from self-employment. How do we call this one? Professional fees. If you are a self-employed consultant, you can get a commission. You can also get some profit. Apart from this, employment, self-employment, also you can get money from business. When you have a business, you also get what you get from there, we call it a profit. Apart from the business, you can also get money from investment. And money from investment, you call it a return. That is a return from investment. Apart from that, you can also get money from financing. And money we get from financing is called credit. Then also, you can get money from fundraising. And commonly, this one is called a grant. There is a seventh one, which we call windfall income. That is money you have not worked for. You have neither been employed, nor self-employed, nor in the business. You have not even made any investment. It is not financing, and it is not fundraising. It is a windfall. So windfall income sometimes is called a bequest, an inheritance. You might be here, and yet you have a friend in Belgium who says that when I die, all my money should be given to Engineer Bakami. So overnight you hear someone sending you an email or a phone call that, Engineer, you are now a billionaire. From where? You are left 4 million, 5 million, 10 million euros. That is the windfall income. Money has been categorized in these different ways. Each of these are sources on how you can set aside money for a purpose. So of all these ones, we are today going to focus on fundraising. So what is special about fundraising? Why can't you get money from your salary and you support our project? It is not enough. Why can't you employ yourself? You get money and you support your research. Why can't you do business? You get a profit, and then you establish an agroecology unit. You support an agroecology unit at Saka. Why can't you get a loan, which we call credit, that is financing, and say, this loan I have got, it is to construct a water harvesting system. Like that, water harvesting system at Saka or for the community. So why fundraising? That is the thinking that we need to have. What is special with fundraising? At the end of this workshop, establish ourselves as fundraisers. Project rating is one of the several other channels of fundraising. And I have indicated these are different ways of how you can get money. I have not indicated here that you pray and you get money. Though sometimes you find someone looking for money, instead of doing these 7 things, he decides to pray. A purpose which serves a social appeal. So if you are fundraising, for example, for your wedding, does it have a social appeal? If it has a social appeal, that's where you're able to fundraise. When we look at the different ways of fundraising, this social appeal should extend from individual interests to community, to country, to the world. If, for example, it is just a social appeal that is of individual interest, then it becomes very hard for you to fundraise. That means if it is for individual interest, you should be able to get that money from your salary, get that money from your business, get that money from your investment. If someone finds a certain beautiful girl and would like to take her out, but does not have money to take her out to New Fort View to eat chicken and chips, and decides to fundraise, when that person fundraises, goes to the Ministry of Water and Environment and says, you see, I have interest in research for water, I've been collaborating, but here is a girlfriend they have found and they like to take her out. Would they give that person money? The interest is more of at an individual level. So in terms of fundraising, we need to look at interests at community level, country. So the interest should be broader than individual interests. Why this one is very important is that for us to be able to develop any issue that requires fundraising, we must know that that issue extends beyond our individual interests. In most cases, people, even myself, as I have told you from experience, we find ourselves in a situation where we need to fundraise. And in universities, the immediate thing we think about is call for proposals. And we apply. But that step is ahead. We need to first understand the fundamentals. Therefore, to be able to fundraise, you need a fundraising strategy. This is something that I came to learn about much later. When you have a fundraising strategy, you will not do fundraising ad hoc. You will not do fundraising on impulse. You will not do fundraising as a one-off. You will be able to do fundraising as part and parcel of your day-to-day activities. That means you have a strategy which is helping you to fundraise. And from a number of project experiences, I have found that there are key actions that should constitute the strategy. A strategy is a plan of different moves that you must make to reach a certain goal. A strategy is a combination of interventions that you must do to reach a certain goal. A strategy is a combination of different approaches that you must be able to implement to reach a certain goal. For you to be able to get money from a donor, from a funder, you must have a strategy. And especially when we talk about money from not one or two or three, but multiple donors. How come that you find some organizations fail to get even one donor? And there are some organizations that have so many donors that even they fail to deal with the so many donors. We are talking about a fundraising strategy. This strategy, one here, I need you to reflect on it. As an individual, you as a person, individual employee working with the mountains of the university, what strategy do I have to get money to fund activities that have social appeal? And specifically, these are activities which are linked to research, to community engagement, to innovations, to teaching and learning as our main roles of responsibility. So what strategy as an individual do you have? Then we turn now to the faculty, for example. What strategy does the faculty of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences have to fundraise, to get money from donors, to get funds from funders? When we leave that level, we also ask, what strategy does the university have to fundraise, to get project funds? So for purposes of this workshop, let us take it at individual level. What strategy do we have? So over time, I have gathered components of a strategy that I'd like to share with you this morning. This is the 10 actions fundraising strategy. And I have said this should specifically be reflected at individual level. How many of us already have a fundraising strategy at individual level? Or maybe some members have not thought about it, that you need a fundraising strategy. Actually, this should not only be applicable to research, projects, innovations, community engagement at MMU. It should even be applicable at personal level. Because the reality is, no matter what we have been told, that money is evil. Robert Kiyosaki says that people say you'd rather be happy than rich, but why not be both? Money is a driver of life. It is a driver of social life. We need money, number one, for health. If you don't have money, you fall sick. You will not get any treatment. You cannot even swallow a tablet because you don't have money to buy it. Number two, you need money for relationships. For you to sustain a relationship, nobody should tell you that there is a very good relationship that thrives on love. Those things we used to read them in Mills and Boons, fairy tales, that the true love, that it can make things work. It is not true. You need money as a grease for the relationship, for the marriage. So nobody should tell you that even sometimes when you need to meet someone to discuss and say, let's meet at Mountains of the Moon Hotel, you don't have means to reach there. Or even when you reach there, you cannot afford a bottle of beer or a bottle of soda. You lose opportunities. So money is very important for relationships. But apart from that, money is very important for wisdom. Because we need money to get knowledge, to get understanding. If you say, for example, here there is a book, a handbook I have about how to get a PhD. The 5 questions you must answer before you graduate. Then you say, I don't have 10,000 to buy it. At the end of the day, you may struggle like many other people have struggled. But if you say, let me pay 10,000 to buy this handbook, then you get knowledge. And then after that, something that would have taken you 4 or 5 years, you can be able to hit it in 2 years or even 1 year. That is money working. So the reality is that we need money, we need funds. Not only for academic progress, research, but also at individual level. There are some actions that we must be able to follow for us to be able to get funds. And surprisingly, some of what we are going to discuss here may be different from what many of you have thought about in terms of how to fundraise. Of course, we have said number one, overall, is that you must have a fundraising strategy. Here now we're going to share the 10 actions of that fundraising strategy. So action number one is for you to define your problem. When I talk about defining your problem, Don't quickly run to a research problem, please. What I'm talking about is, what is it that bothers you? What is it that bothers the community? So this is the issue of concern that I'm talking about here, is the issue that your academic discipline attempts to address. Each one of us here has a certain area of specialty. Is there anyone who doesn't have an area of specialty? Or you don't know that you have an area of specialty? Please, if you don't have an area of specialty, or if you have one but you don't know it, it is better for you to define it now. Because this becomes your issue of concern. When you do your bachelor's, when you do your master's, when you do your PhD, each academic field has a particular issue that it tries to address. I'll give an example. My area of specialty is in biodiversity conservation. That is my area of specialty. My issue of concern is biodiversity loss in protected areas or even outside protected areas. Loss of biodiversity is my issue of concern. That problem extends beyond my individual, beyond my family, beyond my local community. It is a global concern. Therefore, if I come up with that as my problem and define it, then I can be able to appeal for funds. To do what? To address problems associated with what I've told you. The first question is, each one of you, you can reflect for a minute and note down in your notebook, what is your problem? What is the issue of in your area of specialization? When you study, whichever course you have studied, at bachelor's, at master's, at PhD level, reflect, does it have a problem? If you don't reflect on that, eventually, when it comes to engaging the community, you'll find it hard to define what problem am I trying to address. The issue of concern, the academic discipline that I attempt to address. There is a reason why we start from here. This will help you when it comes to donor mapping. Which donors are you looking for and for what? Do you have an issue of concern? If members who are here, you find that you have no issue of concern, please have one starting today. If you have multiple issues of concern, you need to refine your thinking so that you can be able to settle on manageable issues of concern. Because you cannot be able to address all issues of concern that are there. You need to cut out your area and be able to know that you are working and addressing these specific ones. Even Jesus Christ, when he came, he had issues of concern, but he could not solve all of them. That's why he said in one of his prominent statements, when one of the apostles saw a lady pouring very expensive oil on Jesus' feet and using her hair to clean Jesus, and this said, that was, I think, Judas said, couldn't we have sold this oil and get money and pay that money to the poor? You know what Jesus said? You'll always be with the poor, but you'll not always be with me. Meaning that he knew that the poor people would be there, and his mission was not to solve poverty. That means his mission was, he had an issue of concern to save the lost souls, to save people so that they can go to heaven. He had that issue as his issue of concern. Although he first worked as a carpenter, but his main issue was that. So, do you have your main issue? Or you are working as a carpenter and you have forgotten your main issue of concern? Define your area. what you are known for, what problem are you trying to pursue, what are you chasing. This problem should be reflected in your research, in your teaching, in your community engagement activities. I know when we are progressing academically, we tend to think of different things. I can be able to do some work in water resources. I can be able to do some work in organic waste management. I can be able to do some work in agroecology. I can be able to do some work in wildlife. I can be able to do some work in soil. I can be able to do some work in, it is good to first be under and think about all those. But at the end of the day, what is your issue of concern? Very important, so that eventually you become a leader in that issue. You define yourself by addressing that issue. You can work with all those ones in teams, but at the end of the day, you as a person, what lead are you taking and in which field? Newton's third law of motion says, for every action, there is a reaction. Equal and opposite. For every problem, equal and opposite. In the first action, when you define your problem, Professor Wesana will tell us the different ways of defining this problem. For example, using a problem tree and others. Okay, those are not the technicalities, but the first thing, do you have a problem? Here also, when you have a solution, you profile the solution. You can profile it using a solution tree. Maybe he'll tell us, the point here is that, do you have a solution to the problem that you have? The solution can be profiled, as I said, in a solution tree or using other tools like narration. But the solution that you have should be profiled in a way that you specifically point out what you think in your best knowledge the solution is. For example, the solution may be requiring giving information and sensitization. The problem might be requiring, so if a problem requires knowledge, the solution requires information sensitization, then you have an education. The solution requires equipment stroke physical resources, then you have an infrastructure. A problem whose solution requires all the three, you need to articulate that you need all the three to address the problem that you have. You may feel it requires only one, or it requires this, or it requires two of them. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is that you must have a solution to a particular problem. But first you have a problem, then you have a solution. So this solution, if it is in terms of knowledge generation, then you do the research. And those are some of the projects that in universities we do. Not all of them are necessarily research projects. Some of them are educational projects and others are infrastructure projects. Still, I'll give an example. If my problem is biodiversity loss of biodiversity specifically now from protected areas, that is my problem. Why? People go inside and do illegal activities. That causes conflict. I'm I'm defining my problem. Cause conflict, kill lions, kill other animals, and then the population reduces. From biodiversity side of view, the population is low. From the economic point of view, tourists are not coming because the animals have been killed, they cannot pay government some income. I'm defining my problem. Then what is the solution? Then do I say my solution is for me to put policemen all around the protected areas? If that you think is your solution, you can profile it. We have not yet reached at the level of looking for funds. We are still at the level of profiling your solution. But if you are someone who is thinking ahead, you should know that the solution I'm proposing, is it likely to get funds? Because there are some dynamics. Having a solution that is realistic, that is achievable, a solution that is smart.